Hey, and welcome back to OntarioCyrptids. This marks our 40th episode, and like I stated before, I'm going to thank those that continue to comment 3 times or more on my last 5 episodes. Now, I did have one person say that they did not like the shoutouts, so if the rest of you don't like it, I will stop doing them. This is my small way of thanking you guys who put the extra effort in and comment. So today we have, in alphabetical order, Bender, Bomber, Gene, J Cryptid Trooper, and John Ramey. Thank you guys so much. I enjoy reading your comments immensely. Today we have 2 stories which are way up in the northern territories of Canada. I know you will enjoy these 2 encounter stories, so let's get right to them. Grab your favorite beverage, get cozy on the couch or chair, and sit back and relax. Okay, this first story takes place on August the 8th of 1978 up in the province of Yukon, and the nearest town is Whitehorse. I was only 15 years old at the time, visiting my father over the summer vacation in Whitehorse, Yukon Territory, Canada. My folks were divorced, and my dad was a helicopter pilot for Trans-North Turbo Air in Whitehorse. That summer, I had read a book, Sasquatch, by Don Hunter with Renee DeHinden, and had always had a fascination with the subject. I'm not sure if I had a heightened sensitivity to Bigfoot, but I certainly wasn't expecting what happened that day. I was an avid fisherman, catching several gray lining each day from what turned out to be my favorite fishing spot. That day, which is forever burned in my mind, I was walking on a gravel road in the northeasterly direction, roughly parallel with the Yukon River. I was on the east side of the river. As usual, I approached a small light blue power or utility shed, roughly 10 feet square by 8 feet tall. I turned west towards the river to fish at a spot that was riddled with large concrete boulders. My line of sight was completely blocked by the shed as I turned towards the river. The next moment I will always remember. I was absolutely terrified at what I saw next. A tall, dark, black, rather thin figure standing about 200 feet near a large stand of trees 45 degrees off to my right. When I say I was terrified, I was terrified. I'm now 57 years old, and I can honestly say I have never been so completely scared in my life, including the time I was almost killed by a car falling off a hoist and missing me by 2-3 inches. My body instantly said, "Get the F out of there now." I immediately backtracked a couple of steps and hid behind the shed, in absolute fear that it saw me and I was in harm's way. I was actually about 15 minutes run from civilization, so that shed represented the only thing between me and it. Anyways, my instinct was to ever so gently peek around the corner to see if I was spotted. Luckily, it never saw me. That's when things got really interesting. At least, that's what I say now in hindsight. At the time, I was a basket case. What I saw was this Bigfoot or someone in a hairy suit jumping or dancing excitedly around an aspen tree. It was kind of prancing or hopping with its leg about shoulder width apart. Its arms were flailing around. It made no sound. Then it went up to the tree and evidently tried to lift itself up from the ground from a large branch at about shoulder height. As it tried to lift itself up, the branch actually broke with a loud snap. That's when two things happened. One, I knew this was no dream. I actually heard the snap loud and clear, although I can honestly say I saw it fall completely to the ground. Two, I wasn't about to stand around and watch anymore, so I backed away from my hiding spot and carefully made sure the shed was between myself and whatever the hell it was. And I hightailed it out of there as fast as a 15-year-old can run, with my fishing rod and tackle box in hand. I mentioned it to my friends and family the next few days, but it was mostly discarded as nonsense. A few days later, something I will always regret. I went back with my friend and looked for the broken branch or the donor tree or any footprints. Unfortunately, we were not able to find anything. I've thought very long and very hard about the whole thing, and I remember at the time that this was simply unbelievable and what I had witnessed was extremely special. I've since read just about every book on the subject. I wish I could go back and be more critical of what had occurred. It haunts me to this day. I've told my story to a few people, but mostly don't bother telling anymore. Not because I'm embarrassed, but because most people are just ignorant of the subject. I am now a VP of an IT professional service firm, married and have 3 children. I firmly stand behind this story. Either somebody was playing a prank or I saw a Bigfoot doing some sort of ritualistic ceremony that day in Whitehorse, Yukon. Wow, this was a great story, and it reminded me of something. I had read a book called Epoch or Enoch. I think it's Enoch. And I will try to add a picture of that book in this video here. But in that book, it says that Sasquatches, where this particular person was, he was down in Florida. So they called them skunk apes. However, he stated that they bury their dead and then plant a tree where they buried their dead. So I'm curious whether this Sasquatch was dancing around a burial spot and that tree is like the tombstone. And so could that Sasquatch be, celebrating this family member who had passed away? Very interesting. It just sparked that little section of what I read in that book. It's a great book, by the way. And like I said, I'm going to try and put a picture of it in this video so you guys can see it. Okay, this one takes place in August, this time in the summer of 1992. And we are still in the Yukon territories near the city of Whitehorse. This incident happened in the summer of 1992 in my hometown of Whitehorse, Yukon, while I was taking a walk with my mother in the woods near her home. At the time, I guess I was about 39 years old, and my mother was about 60. This is the first time I've told this story to the public. What prompted me to tell the story is that I see very few Sasquatch stories on this site from the Yukon. Actually, from what I've seen and heard, the Yukon should be considered a hot spot for Sasquatch, or Bushman, as they are known up here. I'm going to tell the story the way it happened, and here it is. Being a sort of explorer kind of a person, I like to take walks in the woods and often the beaten track, so I have a better chance of finding something rare or interesting. For one, I am a serious rock hound, and another, I'm a major local history buff, so I'm always off in the woods looking for something. Anyway, One evening, I decided to take a walk down this old road heading west into some pretty dense and very rocky forest. It was a cat road, and it was very skinny, and tall trees were on each side of the road. And the funny thing was, it kept on twisting and turning back and forth, so that at any given time, either forward or backwards, the line of sight was only about maybe 80 feet, I figure. I walk and sort of hoping to get somewhere. A clearing, an old cabin, or at least a change of terrain, but no such luck. I noticed it was getting close to dark, so I figured I'd better turn around and head back, which was probably about an hour and a half walk. I got back to my mom's, and just as darkness fell. Just for the record, during the whole time, I did not get any weird or scared feelings or anticipate anything was going to happen. Nor did anything, which in retrospect has an interesting dimension. Point being is, it was extremely silent, almost too silent. The next morning, I tell my mom about the road and the fact that not far down there was an old dump where we might find some old bottles. And I asked her, did she want to go check it out? Sure, she says. It was a beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky, and it was about 20 degrees. A perfect day for a walk. So off we go. We get to the dump, which was a very short distance down the road. She checks it out, but finds all the bottles were broken. She's fine, though, and enjoying herself and picking flowers. I ask her if she wants to continue down the road. She says, okay, but are you sure there are no bears around? I say, I don't think so. I've never heard or seen anything the night before. And besides, I've been in these woods all my life, and I never had any bear problems. I've seen a few, but they always took off, and they were all rather small black bears. We continued down the road, but just because Mom made me aware of the situation, I sort of walked in front of her 50 feet or so, and looked around each corner of the bend in the road, sort of bird-dogging the scene. I guess about the fourth or fifth bend, I do see something up on the rise to the left about 80 feet away, standing and moving slightly from side to side. I stop in my tracks. My mom stops as well, about 50 feet back and out of view. I turn to her and say, someone is up ahead. I look again, and there he is. I expect him to approach and say hi or something. It doesn't happen. I look closer, and the sun is behind him, and he is in the shade of the trees. The sun is never high up here. I notice that this guy, besides being unusually big and tall, is also wearing black coveralls, and he has a huge mop of hair tapering from the top of his head to the outside of his shoulders. Now, I'm standing in the middle of the road wearing a bright purple t-shirt which is glowing almost neon bright in the sunshine. I'm waiting for him to approach, and I'm staring at him, trying to see the face, the eyes, something. He's still swaying from side to side a bit, but otherwise just standing there. My mom is still about 50 feet back, and she is staying there. She doesn't want to approach any further. She says, What is it, Bill? I say, I'm not sure. It's now about 2 minutes into the scene, and I'm now starting to feel weird. I'm staring at him, and he's staring back, but I can't see his face. He's in the bloody shadows of the trees. Finally, after, I figure 3 minutes of this staring down, I start to face reality, but I don't want to. That's the only way I can explain my feelings. As soon as I realized what I was having the stare down with, I got pretty excited. The first thing that came to my mind was that I didn't want my mom to see it, or it her. I wanted to diffuse the situation with no screaming, no jumping, no fainting, and no running. I was thinking of approaching, but something told me not to, and anyways, it started to approach me. In a split second, I turned my heel and told my mom, "Let's go." I still never told her what I saw and didn't have to. By looking at me, she knew. We walked a quick pace, but I refused to run. I looked back at every corner, and about the third corner, there he was, about 20 feet behind. As soon as I saw him, he was gone into the woods, absolutely silently, not a sound. He was huge. 2 silent strides, and he was gone. This encounter lasted, I figure, about a second at most, so fast that your mind doesn't want to even remember. But I did. And one thing for sure is I was relieved that he was gone and in another direction. After that, we finally came out to the main road. We went across and sat on a log in the woods on the other side. We took out a sandwich, and that's when I said, "Do you know what I saw?" She says, "No." I say, "Sasquatch. I saw a Sasquatch." She says, "Are you sure?" I say, "Yes, ma'am. I remember, names omitted, talking about it. Apparently, it visited the village all the time at night and rummages around in the yard. We went home and I drew a picture of it and went through it in my mind over and over again to keep it in my memory. That was 14 years ago, and I can still remember it very well." Here are some key points that Bill mentions. He says that it was extremely quiet. I don't recall hearing birds or squirrels or anything. When it walked, it seemed like it was levitated, like he wasn't touching the ground, but a few inches above it. He also seemed to have no definition outside of the silhouette, just like a shadow. Don't know if it had hair or fur, as I didn't bother to go up and touch him. The really weird thing of it is his pointed head configuration, very pronounced. When I was watching him, I thought of Saturday Night Live Coneheads, but I surely was not laughing. Also at the time of the incident, my adrenaline was at the highest as I ever had in my whole life. I was looking for a stick or a club, but couldn't find one, which angered me, and I was ready to take him on if I needed to, though I didn't figure I had much of a chance. Oh, this is another absolutely interesting story, and I do agree with Bill that we don't hear a lot of stories from up north, like way north. Is that because there's usually not, well, you know, like there's not a lot of civilization, so to speak, up there? Now, the Yukon does have a few major towns. And you would think if, like he says, if it is occurring a lot up in those neighborhoods, like around Whitehorse, that we would be hearing a lot more of it. But I guess, you know, that's what this channel is for. It's for people to get their story out there. And not a lot of people want to report their stories to the officials, so to speak. So there you have it. 2 great stories from the Yukon. As promised, we went way north for this one, but they were fantastic stories. And, you know, maybe I'll see if I can do more digging and find stuff from like Alaska or, you know, Yukon territories, that sort of thing. Anyways, that is going to be it for today. Again, I would like to thank everybody who has commented. I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate those who like these stories. Hitting that like button really helps my channel out a lot. So thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, we'll see. We're going to look around and dig deep. Maybe look around again somewhere in Canada and see what else we can come up with. But, you know, we've never looked around. I have to do some digging. I have some things coming up that I'm interested in doing, but it's taken a little bit of time for me to write them out. It's more like historical type story, so there is a lot of investigation needs to be done, and then, you know, writing it out and making sure it flows, the story flows. So stay tuned for that. It is coming, but it's taking a while for me to get that out. So that's going to be it. Like I said, thank you again, everybody. And if you have a story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCyrptids@gmail.com. And I will be more than happy to share them on this channel. And remember, you don't have to give me your name or anything like that if you don't want to. But it would be nice to know the general area. Please don't pinpoint the exact location of where your encounter occurred. Just give me a general area and that would be fine, like a county, a city, somewhere close to a city, and that's good enough. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you all next week.